What's this? A cougar and a ute sharing the same podcast? That can only mean you're listening to State of Sports Utah with Jason Stoll and Jake Lukler.
Hello and welcome to State of Sports Utah.
What was
Dude,
that?
it's freaking
Well,
October, baby. Spooky season.
Oh, don't. Oh, okay. All right. Here I was just thinking, because we talked about how the intro is the same every time, that you're just like, you have to spice it up.
It is. It's a conscious thing. I went to say, "What's up, everybody?" and it just didn't feel right, man. It just didn't feel right.
Oh, I'm sure.
Well,
it didn't.
On that note, hey everybody, welcome into the podcast. This is Jason Stoll with my counterpart and just nasty, dirty Ute fan, Jake Lukler.
Guilty as charged. Although I did shower today, Jason, so I'm not that filthy or nasty.
That's good. No, Jake. It's your soul. Your soul is at stake here.
Right. Well, nothing could be done about that. I'm a sinner, and I refuse to repent on this one.
Well, it's a good thing that your sins do not prevent us from being friends. Most of the time, except for that, one game a year.
Most years. Not
You're
this
right.
year, though.
You're right. This year, you are guilt sin-free the whole season.
Yep.
And our friendship can blossom.
Yep.
That's the real reason they're taking pauses. Yep. It's just for the sake of our friendship.
Yep. So that way, it doesn't put too much strain.
Well, guys, we are going to talk some actual football, I suppose. A little bit more of a chill week this week because we're both chilling. We didn't win. We didn't lose.
Yeah.
It's a bye week. We're big chilling.
Much needed bye week, and very very nicely timed. I always appreciate every other year when the Pac-12 gives us a bye week. Right around conference.
Yeah, kind of.
I always appreciate
kind of early mid season. We're not quite mid season. Early mid season.
I mean, you throw in fall camp, and it's about
right.
halfway through.
Well, and it came at a good time, as we kind of mentioned last week. Both teams have dealt with some injuries, so it was perfectly timed for both teams. Hopefully, again, we just had some chance to recover, but we'll delve into some of the injuries a little bit later in the podcast in one of our segments. But let's recap weeks 5 and 6. Jake, what do you think?
Well, week 6 was a bit of a snooze fest, at least for our respective teams. For other teams, though, great games, not a snooze fest at all. But as for week 5, there was, Utah didn't do so hot. The injuries kind of finally caught up with us. We went on the road to a tough Oregon State team. The offense really had its struggles, and just, like I said, the injuries really kind of caught up with us here, and we took our first loss of the season, 4-1. Which, I mean, if you had told me at the beginning, before the season started, that going into the bye week we were 4-1, all without the Cam Rising, Brant Kuithe, and the laundry list of players that are injured, if you had told me that we had gotten to this point of the season and we're 4-1, I would have been ecstatic. I would have taken that deal in a heartbeat. So, it sucks to lose a game like that, but, undefeated seasons, this was not real. It wasn't really on the table for this year anyways. I wasn't expecting it. So, had to get that first loss out of the way. And honestly, Oregon State's a good team, so not ashamed to lose to them at all.
Right, and I mean it it kind of, Utah has been in this position, it feels like multiple times, and still ended up in that conference championship, game.
Oh, absolutely. No, I mean, it's still very possible that we end up in the conference championship. Don't get me wrong, a lot of things got to change. Offense, it's got to get better. And once again, we'll talk about it, in the next segment a bit more. But, injuries have really stacked up, especially on the offensive side of the ball. And, as much as you can say next man up, when you start getting into, when it's not just the twos stepping in for the ones, but it starts to become the threes and the fours having to step up, there's going to be a gap in talent no matter what. And so, offense has got to get better, but it's also got to get healthy. It's less of a, licking your wounds and more like getting out of the hospital, getting, your stitches patched and you're, getting the casts off and getting out of the hospital.
Well, for the BYU side of things, just a really solid week for that week 5. Taking on Cincinnati at home, your first home Big 12 game. Ended up being the highest attended game since 2009. Utah, actually, that game against Utah in 2009. So it's been a hot minute. We've had some... I think some more like recent games, like Utah in 2022. I think Arizona State.
We didn't play last year.
Or sorry, 21. And Baylor
didn't play. Oh, yeah.
Baylor in 22. There have been some games that have been really well attended recently. So this was kind of like the building point, the culmination of like all these recent successes and more fans kind of engaging or re-engaging in attending games at less, and so it was a huge crowd, and obviously it's great to get to have that attendance paid off with the win, which BYU was able to muster.
And if I'm not mistaken, Jason, this is the first Big 12 win, isn't it?
So first. Yep.
First official in-conference Big 12 win. I mean, that's a big deal.
And I think if you look at the other teams that are new to the conference, right? So Cincinnati, Houston, and UCF, they are all winless in the Big 12. BYU is the only team with a win in the Big 12, and even overall, BYU's record, they outside of 4-1 BYU, all of the rest are 500 or below. So that jump, really going from G5 to Power 5, the gap is big. It's a significant grind. So
for sure.
It's something to keep an eye on. I think the fact that BYU played one of those new Big 12 members and hasn't, had a win against an original Big 12 member. It's something to watch, and I'm interested to see.
Yeah.
Still confident in where BYU can finish in regards to the rest of the conference, but definitely will be interesting to see at the end of the season, where each of those new Big 12 teams kind of stacks up. So
for sure,
lots to look into and look forward to, but good start getting that win. So,
and I completely agree, Jason. Now, moving on to our next segment here is the thing that we keep dancing around, and that's coming off going into a bye week. We always kept talking about injuries, but I just thought it'd be interesting if we could just compile, to the best of our knowledge, what the injuries are. We keep talking about how they're stacking up, they're getting big. So why don't we dive in to just how many injuries are there, right? Now, obviously, college universities don't follow the same rules as NFL. They don't have to report injuries. They don't have to disclose anything.
BYU and Utah are both notoriously bad with being wish-washy about disclosing injuries and all that kind of stuff.
Exactly. And I, for one, I totally understand that. Why give your opponent more information than they need, right? Than you have to give them, right? So I get it, but this is just, our kind of list. Perhaps full disclosure, we could be forgetting people here, but this is just kind of our best job here. So Utah has, from what I know of, 2 season-ending injuries, one running back Mekhi Bernard, and 2 defensive end Logan Fano. Both season-ending. Logan Fano just had his ACL torn in the Oregon State game. Mekhi Bernard, right after the Florida game, had an off-the-field injury. And then
straight up prayers up for Logan Fano. Like, I know we get the rivalry banter and betrayal, whatever. Like when it comes to those injuries, I was gutted for Logan. It's tough to have now 2 season-ending injuries. So hopefully he can recover from that and get back on the field, because him and his brother have been awesome. They've been killing it.
Yeah, and you're absolutely right. It's heartbreaking, especially just because he was tearing it up. He was an absolute monster out there. He was a terror for all things opposing offenses, and so really hope he gets a speedy recovery. So thank you for that, Jason. All right, so after that, get ready, Jason, because I got quite the laundry list here. So I broke it down by position group because that kind of helped me keep things straight. First off, we have 3 quarterbacks that are injured. Cam Rising, he also, just quick little thing here, Cam Rising actually revealed today that his injury was a lot more serious back in the Rose Bowl when he got injured. Was a lot more serious than was originally led on to believe. Not only did he tear his ACL, but pretty much every ligament in his knee. And so it basically just means that he was never really had a chance to be ready for the Florida game. At this point, I question if he'll be ready at all this season, and even if he doesn't just take a medical red shirt, I don't know, or even if he qualifies, I don't know. So, Cam Rising, he's one. Brandon Rose, he's missed significant time, got injured during fall camp. There's rumored he's coming back, but who knows. Bryson Barnes got injured in the Florida State game. Then we have 2, so that's all 3 quarterbacks. Then we have 2 defensive ends, Van Fillinger and Connor O'Toole, both injured in fall camp. Defensive tackle Samote Peppa has missed significant time and got injured kind of with a nagging injury. Brent Keithy, obviously, tore his ACL last year. Still has yet to come back. 3 running backs, 4, including Mekhi Bernard. Jaquinnen Jackson, nagging injury, been on and off. Chris Curry, Charlie Vincent, both, Chris Curry, season ender last year, barely, just was kind of coming back, then re-injured himself. Then Charlie Vincent got injured this last game. Let's see, we have our kicker got injured a couple weeks ago, and that one just bugs the heck out of me. The fact that our kicker gets injured when nobody even touches him. I don't know. We got an offensive lineman, Johnny Maia, got hurt, and then 2 wide receivers, Mekhi Pittman and Munir McClain, and all those, most of them being on offense. This also doesn't include other players that are currently not injured but have been injured throughout the season, missing significant time. Devon Vele and Junior Tafuna being 2 of the most prime examples, but not the only examples, Jason. So I know that was big, long spiel. Honestly, I'm exhausted from talking, just from listening that. I feel depressed. I feel like I need to, huddle up under a rock and, just after listing all those star players, just, long list of injuries, it's incredibly depressing.
Well, and I think, the fact that Utah is 4-1, with that laundry list of names, it's great. You had multiple Power 5 opponents that you picked up wins there. So I don't know. It is tough to to say how much of this is really on scheme or talent and is just on talent because of the injuries, and so you're putting lesser talent on the field. But BYU has their own share of injuries. I'm not I'm not gonna have a list, I think, anywhere close to as long as that one was. But you had, and I mean everyone knows Ropatai, and then Ropati. That blew my mind. I think it's actually pronounced Ropati, which I thought it was Ropatai this whole time. Anyway, but him and then Micah Harper both out for the season. That's before we even played any games, so it's been so long that.
Yeah.
And then you've got Talon Alfrey, which again hopefully with all these injuries, hopefully with the bye week and having that little bit of time, we start to see some of these guys working their way back. But Talon Alfrey is one of those guys. Safety would be huge for positional depth because it's definitely a shallow position and more of a concern. So hopefully, I think he's officially from BYU is 1 to 2 weeks. What they were saying before the Cincinnati game. So he's right on that edge. I think if he's not back this game, he will be next game. So excited about that. But Ben Bywater remained out for the Cincinnati game. That's big. Linebacker, you're kind of your captain, your leader, really, of the defense. That's a critical loss. And Taggart is a great talent, but to lose kind of that veteran leadership type player on the field is big. And then Aiden Robbins still out. Kingston still out. This is all like immediately after the Cincinnati game, by the way. I mean, some of these statuses could be updated, and we'll know more this week.
I mean, the thing about coming off a bye week is there's nothing else to, all our information is a week old.
So, Lapua'o, he's offensive lineman, was out for that Cincinnati game, and then Cody Epps, the kind of saga with Cody Epps continues with him being banged up.
He's the one that got hurt in the he got hit real bad last year. In wasn't that the Arizona game in the Raiders arena? Wasn't that him?
That was the Arizona game was 2021. So it's been a couple of years. That guy, I'm trying to remember his name off the top of my head. He retired from football, and that was scary. Yeah.
I can imagine after a hit like that. Scary. Yeah, that makes sense.
So those are kind of the guys that, again, I know of as of immediately after the Cincinnati game. So decent amount of injuries, but as with all of them, hopefully we get to see them back here. But
hopefully next time we touch on this subject, hopefully by next podcast, both of our lists will be much shorter. You hate to see these athletes get hurt.
Yep.
All right, Jason, let's move on to something a little less depressing and perhaps something a little bit more controversial. What do you say? All right, so Jason, as I'm sure anyone who's read any sort of sports news or consumed sports media may have heard, the University of Utah's Crimson Collective just made a huge NIL move in which they gave all 85 scholarship football players a lease to a new Ram truck, 2024 Ram truck. Now, the question is here, so this is obviously a big move. It's a big step forward. It's, it was so big it caught national media attention, right? So the question is, what are the ramifications of this? Is this going too far? Is this just, beating everyone else to the punch? What's the next thing that could happen with this, Jason? I want to get your reaction as a BYU fan, when you heard this news and how you feel about it now.
So, maybe this is going to be a slightly different take. I think superficially it sounds like really crazy and, oh my gosh, they're giving every player a truck? What? How can they do that? Yada yada. Or wow, that's so crazy. I think honestly, when you look at the actual setup of the NIL deal, it's cool. It's great for the players, but I think it's pretty on par with deals that I've seen across the country in that they are not truly gifting cars to players.
True.
Players are on the hook for taxes. They are leasing these cars to the athletes. Jake, maybe you could expound a little bit more on like what that actually means, if you know. But it's not like they're getting these free trucks that are just theirs right now. You know, if they leave the program,
very true,
the car's going back to the dealership, right? I mean, it's so like it's a cool and unique NIL deal, and I don't think that aspect of it should be taken away at all. And obviously, it grabbed a ton of headlines. Because it does. It's cool, and it's going to be fun for those players to potentially ditch their 2001 Toyota Corolla for like a sick brand new truck. Like that's great. But again, I think looking at the actual nitty gritty of it, I don't think there's anything wrong with what they did. Just based on how they're actually executing it, if that makes sense. So I don't want to make it sound like I'm bashing it or something, because I know there have been some discussions and some less than logical and more rivalry-fueled takes on it from that direction, But yeah, that's
you're always going to have those.
That's just my perspective. And I will say this as well. Like, I've heard from multiple people that BYU was supposed to be getting this exact same deal, this exact same setup, but they were pushing to get it, like, athlete-wide for every scholarship player of all sports. Was what I've been hearing,
geez.
Which would, like, I don't know that that's going to happen, and it's a pretty classic BYU move to do. Like, we really care about every single sport and pushing and trying to push it.
I don't know. I mean, this is a pretty sweetheart deal. I struggle to see like the women's swim team getting this.
Right.
Stuff. I just don't see it. I mean, maybe BYU pulls that kind of thing off, and I'll eat my words. But that's a hard sell.
I agree. So I and again, I think from my perspective, if that really is what has held it up or is holding it up, I think you gotta do some introspection on what you're getting. But
maybe a little bit.
But again, as a Utah fan, if you guys see it pop up and are tempted to be like, "Ha, see, little brother, you're just copying what we did." Like, it has, again, I've heard for a minute that this deal was in the works, and BYU is just really slow with things. So, but again, good props to you, because you didn't muck it up and bog it down with administrative things, and you got it first. So there you go.
I mean, I suppose that's true, and I had a big point to say here. Dang it. Anyways, I get the thing I was going to say was, Ken Garff, this is coming through them, this NIL deal, and they do sponsor both schools. So I mean, it does give some credit to what you've been hearing, and to this claim that you're making here. So just wanted to throw that out there. They do sponsor both schools.
Right.
So, and as far as my take on this, I think that, it's not as grandiose, you're right, as gifting a truck.
Which, let's be honest, right? That there are some players in college football, like Caleb Williams is not, he probably has multiple gifted free cars.
He's been gifted
right.
Plenty of things. I mean, the man, we're up to the point where he can make more in NIL money, than his rookie contract in the NFL, right? He has actively stated, I will stay if I don't like the team that is likely to draft me.
Well, what is cool about it is that the fourth string safety that's on scholarship at Utah is driving a new truck, and that's the gist of it.
Oh yeah, absolutely. and I mean, so from what I understand, the deal of this is it comes in a 6-month, potentially renewed lease. Players that graduate or leave for the portal, they will be able to keep the truck until that 6 months is over. As long as they maintain a scholarship on the team, the lease will renew. Right? And it is suggested that next year new players come in, they will receive a truck as well. It is presumed that. I think this is a big deal. I think it is a big move. It's a statement piece, I think, is really what it is. It is Utah's way of saying, hey, if USC and Colorado and teams like that can go out and basically just buy a new team with NIL and the transfer portal, Utah can make a statement with that too. And I think it's, I don't think it's wrong per se. I think it's just, this is just the world we live in now. This is how college football is, and if you don't play the game, you're going to get the game played on you.
Both Utah and BYU have to be creative in the NIL sphere.
Yes.
They do not bring in anywhere close to the amount of money that a Notre Dame or USC is, or
Georgia,
Ohio State,
Alabama.
right? That those schools are bringing in. And so any sort of unique angle that you can bring into, the sphere is great.
Any sort of headlines.
The walk-on scholarships, but with the Built Beer... Built Beer, that's definitely a BYU sponsor. With the Built Bar sponsorships, that was huge, and that grabbed national headlines with BYU getting their walk-ons a scholarship. That's a huge advantage and sort of a recruiting
that's a big deal.
Angle or pitch that you can sell to people. So yeah, I mean I love it. I really I hope BYU actually is in on it and get something done similar.
Yeah.
And like you said, it brought a ton of attention to the program for Utah, and it's unique, which is exactly what we need. So
yeah,
I like it. Well, let's get into our prediction portion of the show.
Oh boy,
I am actually excited for once for this week. I wonder why that would be, Jake.
I don't know, Jason.
Let's recap if you wouldn't mind, there, Jake. What was our prediction record looking like after last week's?
So the score is 2-3 with me in favor. And so going over our predictions from last week, this is going to be real quick because obviously one game apiece. You predicted BYU would beat Cincinnati in a low-scoring game of 17-10. Utah would lose to Oregon State 10-21. Got really close there. I predicted that both teams would win. I predicted a slightly higher scoring game of 24-17 with BYU versus Cincinnati. Utah versus Oregon State. I had a bit more faith in Utah's offense, scoring 21-17. Didn't quite happen that way. So now, Jason, if looking at this, I think, if I'm not mistaken, it looks like here we get a point apiece. Since obviously you predicted Oregon State would win, and it happened. We both had the same point differential, and neither of us got it exactly right. However, I think we need to give the point to me because I predicted the higher score. Yeah, it was the closer of the two.
Well, I'm less excited now. I thought I had 2 easy points. I forgot that you predicted that we were going to win. Dang it.
Yeah. So, hey.
But I picked up...
No real harm done. The score is now 4-3.
A 1-point lead.
So, no real harm done. Yep, I maintain my 1-game lead.
Well, let's get into our actual predictions for the coming weeks. Gonna be a little bit more difficult because multiple games to predict here.
Okay.
And lots of potential embarrassment for me because I'm horrible at these score predictions.
You're right. So, just as a recap for everybody, or at least maybe not a recap, but just to let everyone know listening, the next two opponents for each team is BYU at TCU, so going into Texas for that game. Utah will host the Cal Bears. Then in Week 8, BYU will host the Red Raiders of Texas Tech, and Utah will go into the Coliseum against the USC Trojans. Jason, how are you feeling? How are you feeling about these games?
I think this is what I'll say. We're about to find out for real this time who BYU is, because you win against Arkansas.
Oh boy, this identity crisis,
you
Jason.
win against Arkansas. You lose against Kansas. You beat Cincinnati, who hasn't done a whole lot in the Big 12. This is where the schedule, and those big matchups really start to come into play. So TCU, I gotta say, at the beginning of the season, I think that this score prediction would have been significantly different. But it has been confirmed. TCU will be starting their backup quarterback versus BYU, and he did not look good versus Tech. They really, really struggled and did not look good in that Tech game. And I think they've had some injuries. The end of that, not the Tech game, but the week before that, West Virginia. Like there were a decent amount of injuries for both teams during that game. So this score prediction, I'm feeling really good about going into TCU. Their home field environment is terrible. Like it is, I think that there's going to be, again, as they're
recently. Recently, not historically though. They've had a very good home presence this week.
I don't know. I wouldn't even say like maybe back in like the Mountain West days more so, but even last year in their national championship run, like they did not have full arenas as like an undefeated team towards the end of the season, like 8-9-0. They didn't have fans. Like it's been interesting. I just feel like the fan support, it has me. This is like you opened a can of worms here, because I've had a ton of questions. Like I can't imagine if BYU last year went to the national championship game, every single game, even if BYU lost like 7 games in that season, every single game would be packed. The fan excitement level would be off the charts. So where are you, TCU fans? I don't understand. It is baffling to see those, that game against West Virginia, and to see like the number of, just like almost the whole upper bowl completely empty. Like just did not have fans there. Okay. So I think it's a road game, but I think that there's going to be, even with TCU trying not to sell tickets to BYU, which I don't know if you saw that wrinkle, but TCU legitimately did not sell BYU an allotment of tickets. And they threatened their season ticket holders that if they sold their tickets to BYU fans, that they would risk like having their season tickets revoked for the future. Like they couldn't buy.
I don't know how you verify that. Like how
it was a very veiled and empty threat. But apparently this is the thing that TCU does every year for one opponent. Like they do this last year. I think it was Texas Tech. Like they just apparently they can do that, which I think is ridiculous. And I hope BYU pays the favor next year and says, sorry TCU, no tickets for you. That's crazy. Yeah, anyway, so despite that, I know 500 missionaries from the Dallas-Fort Worth mission are attending the game. There's going to be a decent BYU showing even with that. So, like, with it being a Big 12 road game, I don't think the atmosphere is going to be there. I just don't know that TCU's like all that good this year. especially with some injuries and a backup quarterback who did just not look good. So I'm saying BYU at TCU, 31-20 win for BYU. Yeah.
Okay.
Do you want to give your score prediction for that too, I guess?
Yeah. So I also think BYU is going to win. I'm going to predict a little bit more higher scoring. I'm going to go mid-30s to mid-20s, 35-24.
Ooh, you're really playing the crunched numbers there. Oh, we're going to win and watch your number be closer. I'm going to be so annoyed. So why don't you give your Utah versus Cal prediction, and then I'll give mine, and we'll kind of stagger back and forth.
Sure. Okay. Well, this season has been really hard to predict for Utah. All right. Just one, your main quarterback is out, and has been, maybe he comes in, maybe he doesn't. I'm just gonna assume until he shows up. I'm gonna assume he's not playing the rest of the season. I've just decided it. I'm gonna assume he's not playing. However, I do think we'll get a lot of other players back. I think a lot of the bye week will have gotten a lot of pieces healthy again. I think everybody will have a piece to. I think everybody a lot more practice, a lot more preparation, specifically for this game. You got to have a bounce back win at home. You can't lose at home. You don't want to disappoint everybody. So I'm going to go with a 24-14. Cal's a good team, but I just can't bet against the Utes at home against against someone who's not in the upper half of the conference, I'd say. So I'm gonna go 24-14.
I gotta say,
yeah,
I think that Utah is definitely in a precarious spot, and if the team that played against Oregon State is the team that's gonna be the team that shows up the rest of the season, I think there's a legitimate fear and chance of Utah scraping to be at 500 in conference play. Genuinely, Utah has a very tough remaining schedule. Arizona State,
very true.
Colorado, those are maybe your two weakest, remaining opponents.
I'd say so.
But the reason that Cal kind of, I don't know, concerns me from and it's so hard to just compare, this score was this versus Utah, and this score was this versus Cal with Oregon State. But that was an absolute shootout with Cal and Oregon State. So if that Cal offense shows up, can Utah's offense keep up with that is a major question, I think, just based on production. Just based off of the team that played against Oregon State, I'm going to say that this is a loss for Utah versus Cal.
Okay.
And I'm going to say...
And I could see your reasoning there.
I'm going to say 21-35. And I could be completely wrong on that, and the Cal-Oregon State game was just a random offensive fluke, and Cal really struggles, but that's what I'm going to put.
Okay. All right, Jason. What about week 8? How you feeling on?
So this is another one that I think this is really a toss up for me. I'm gonna give. I put it as a win for BYU, 35-32. Literally just the 3-point. I think the 3-point home spread is. That's where I'm putting it. I still think BYU's home field advantage is elite, and teams genuinely struggle with that. They had a I wish I had the exact stat, but that the Cincinnati home game attendance was top 10 nationally that week. in home attendance. It was great. So,
Okay.
so yeah, that's where my spread is. 3-point home field advantage. I think Tech is really good. I do. I think
Really?
they've kind of grown and come into a rhythm. After
some tough early season
that
losses,
early
yeah.
part of the season, I think really has almost helped them. It's felt like, but they've looked fairly good. So, it's going to be tough. Definitely another one where I'm like, it's probably just my my bias as a BYU fan that is making me put that loss for Utah and put this as a win for BYU. But we could totally lose that game. I mean, it's going to be tough. So.
Well, Jason, see, this type of a game is actually what I think is the hardest part about doing the 2 weeks at a time.
Right. Where's the team going to be at with injuries?
Yeah, exactly. I think because
momentum.
If I could see how they performed against TCU and a team like TCU, I think I'd be much more informed, and I'd feel more confident in whatever prediction I would give for Texas Tech. But given all the reasons you stated, I'm also going to predict a narrow win. I'm going to go slightly lower scoring, although, not too much. I'm going to go 31-28.
Like it. 3-point spread. We'll see who has the better points. The point differential.
Yeah. Yeah, let's see who's going over or under. Yeah. Anyway, so Utah that week heads to the Coliseum, faces down Crybaby Caleb and in the team money bags of the Trojans, and again, if I could see how they perform against Cal, it'd probably change. But as of right now, I'm going to predict a loss for my dear Utes. I hate saying that, but just for the sake of this wager here and my betting record, I can't, in good conscience, right now predict a Utah victory. I'm going to go 42-20. Trojans have an axe to grind. They have this is a revenge game for them. They're at home. Whatever fan base that they can scrounge up against the homeless population of LA, I'm sure we'll be dying to see this happen. And like I said, they'll just be ready to go. And like I said, it could change. Maybe Utah comes out after this bye week as completely different team. You never know. It could happen. Complete 180. The offense could just start firing on all cylinders and able to keep up with the Trojan offense. You never know. It could happen, but as of right now, until I see it, I can't in good conscience predict anything better than 42-20 loss for Utah.
I have the same, slightly different, and you might beat me on point differential there just from scoring.
Yeah, I think mine is a bit wider.
So I'm saying 24-38, but let me get on my USC soapbox for a minute. USC is not good. They are not good.
They're good. They're not great, though. They're good, but they're not great.
I've watched every game of USC. For whatever reason, the time slots, they've been fitted into a lot of tight, late window slots.
Because they keep playing cupcakes.
So they have played nobody, and they have looked garbage in every single game that they've played. They've had a ton of offensive struggles. Their defense cannot stop anything. I do not see USC making it to the Pac-12 championship game. I do not. They have a massively difficult schedule to finish
coming up here very soon.
The season. I will take Notre Dame's lost 2 in a row. I would take Notre Dame this week over USC. Genuinely, that's how bad I think that USC has looked, particularly on defense. But USC's offense hasn't had flow. They've really relied on a couple explosive plays from Caleb Williams to kind of pull them and kind of drag them along to some wins versus just frankly some not good teams. And so that's my hot take, and I just with the amount, like you said, money bags USC, with the amount of money and hype and all this talent that they're supposed to have, Like, I hope that, because I really don't like Caleb Williams, I don't like USC. I hope that they don't, but I genuinely don't see them finishing ahead of Oregon or Washington this year. Both of those teams have played way better. So there's my hot take. I hope Utah fans love that, because I know they don't have a lot of love for USC. But I think they're bad.
No, they definitely don't.
I think they're not that great this year. They could finish 4th in the conference. I think there are a plethora of teams that could finish better than USC. So
yeah. And this year is a very interesting year for the Pac-12. A really great farewell tour, as I've been calling it, the Pac-12 farewell tour. Making it all nice and interesting at the very least.
Exactly. Well, guys, that's gonna wrap it up for us. Hope you enjoyed again listening to. That was a lot of me kind of ranting about a couple things, or not even ranting, just
as
rambling.
usual, Jason. I mean, let's be honest. You typically go on at least 1 or 2 rants
I'm
per
passionate.
episode.
I'm passionate about how bad.
I mean, we can tell.
Your homeless fans comment killed me, dude. Oh, that was.
Oh yeah,
so
no, that
good.
And I did that off the
good.
cuff. I mean, I didn't even pre-plan
Brilliant.
that. That was not premeditative. That was, it's spur of the moment, passion of the instant. I don't know.
Well, I hope it's a better week than what we may have predicted here. I hope you guys are able to make it to a game. Thanks again for listening, guys. We will catch you in a couple weeks, and as usual, go Cougs.
And go Utes.
See you guys.
Thank you for listening to this State of Sports Utah production. SFX technical support provided by Samantha Knight.